My favorite character is, you probably heard it 2 times, Sir Kendrick, but, the reason why I like him is because he never gives up when it's hard. He also gives grace to Duncan when he makes a mistake. Most people try to, avoid the hard things in life when we should embrace it.
Welcome to the Recap Book Chat. We are a mother and daughter duo
conversing about books over a cup of joe.
seeking truth to help us glow.
Ready, set, let's grow!
Welcome back to the Recap Book Chat. Today we're diving into Sir Kendrick and the Castle Bel Lione by Turk Black and illustrated in 2008.
I think you meant copyright.
Correct.
Great. So I'm going to ask you some questions about the book. So if you do fabulous answers, then Nana will read the book. Is that a deal?
It's a deal.
Okay, here we go. Let's dive in.
So what's your first question?
Okay, so who does the prince represent?
He represents Jesus.
Okay, and so you're saying there's metaphors in the book and representation. So maybe you should tell us what's the problem in this book?
So the problem is that, Duncan gets trapped in the castle of Bel Lione and gets tortured. But luckily, Landor and Sir Kendrick came to the rescue. And so while we're talking about this, we get to go to our characters. Duncan is like a beginning prince, kind of like you have the king and the prince. Well, they're knights of the prince, and
So,
he's a young guy. So
is he a knight in training?
yes, he is. That's the correct words.
Wait, I'm going to pause you right there. And Titus, I want to come to you. But we forgot the setting. Where does this take place? So we jumped in, we have a problem and some characters, but where does this take place?
Obviously a fictional world, but it's medieval times.
It's in the Erythrae, right? Isn't that the land?
Erythrae and the Castle Bel Lione.
So, but it is fantasy, but it's medieval fantasy.
So it's like around King Arthur's time. You should all know who that is.
But it's in a different world.
It's in a different world, but it takes place around the same time. So
Okay, so kick us back. Go back now to the characters, but just so we know that it's medieval feeling.
So we have the characters, which is Landor. He is I don't want to give any spoilers away. He is a retired, or I guess you could say retired, Black Knight, and the Black Knights are like the servant for the bad guy, which is Lucius. He's like the king of all the bad guys. Like when you're in a gang, you have like a co-leader, like a general. So the general is Lord Raw. He's the general, or he's more of the king of Bel Lione, but he works for Lucius. So Landor is a retired knight of the bad side. So, but when he hears Sir Kendrick's side, he goes with Sir Kendrick to rescue Duncan, and we go to our favorite character. Mom, what's your favorite character?
Well, Sir Kendrick is just amazing, and he's the seasoned guy. He's obviously the namesake of the book, but Sir Kendrick, he's the seasoned knight, so he's a little bit older. Duncan's the young buck who's in training. So you like Duncan, I like his energy, but something about Sir Kendrick is just, he has suffered loss. He's lost his family, so he just has this depth and this connection with the prince. Like, he's very faithful.
My favorite, I'd have to say Sir Kendrick is really, I guess the word for it would be faithful. He's very loyal to the king and tries. However, there is parts of the book where you feel like Duncan is your favorite character, because it's like Duncan, he's the wimp who's crying because he lost a match. He's sitting in the corner, and then here's Sir Kendrick. Well, so I feel like Duncan, I feel like everyone has their moments, you can't be good at everything, but you shouldn't be bad at everything. Everyone's good at something.
So Jonah said the prince represents Christ. Who are the knights of the prince? And
the knights of the prince is kind of what I said before. No, they represent the followers of Jesus, and all the people who go around teaching the Bible, because that's how Landor became on the good side. Sir Kendrick, he he teaches Landor about Jesus, and he's like, "Oh, who's this?" So he started following, and that's what the princes do. They go around, they like help teach, like they help change a lot of people. My favorite character is, you probably heard it 2 times, Sir Kendrick. But the reason why I like him is because he never gives up when it's hard. He also gives grace to Duncan when he makes a mistake. Towards the beginning, Duncan was like, he was pretty prideful at the beginning. Sir Kendrick gave him grace, but like from the beginning, you can see how he's changed a lot, because that before he was in training, he was almost like all over the place. He didn't really care. Okay, whatever. But now, since he's kind of been on this long journey with Sir Kendrick, he's got to know him.
There was an element of trust that had to develop because Sir Kendrick would say something and Duncan would be, well, why? Why don't you want to go fight in this tournament and win? Like, there's nothing wrong with glory. There's nothing wrong with winning. And Sir Kendrick would be like, I don't care about the glory. I've done that before. I've won tournaments. There's nothing there. And Duncan would question that. But later on, it would come out that Duncan would see the depth of Sir Kendrick and how what he was saying and his actions really lined up with what the prince taught.
I think that kind of represents us, because when God just tells us to like go do so and so, whatever, and you're like, well, like why would you do that?
Why would you love your enemy?
Yeah, but because it's like a weird thing to say, but that's like, I feel like we are Duncan in that moment. Like we don't really like trust. Like we're like, well, okay, I'll do it. But always it turns out to be good, because it always helps like it in the end. And I feel like we're all Duncan in that situation. Like God tells us to love your enemies. Like, why would we love our enemies? That just doesn't seem right. And I bet no one really sees that right.
But then if you trust and do it,
Yeah,
and then
and
you see the fruit,
it all plays out in the end.
great connection.
I think that the representatives of the book are the king represents God, prince represents Jesus, like Sir Kendrick represents the followers of the prince and the king. Duncan, like he said, represent us sinners, and then the Vincero Knights, which are the Knights of Lucius, they represent kind of the people in the world who are kind of evil. And then the Black Knights, I think, are representatives of demons and people who want chaos. And then Lucius obviously represents Satan. So those are probably the representatives of the book.
Here's a question for you. Who are the silent warriors and the shadow warriors?
It's Shadow Warriors. It's not the Dark Knights.
Yeah.
Is that
The Shadow Warriors represents demons. The Silent Warriors are like angels, kind of.
something that I like how he wrote is that almost like when you turn to the side, like you almost like it's almost impossible to get back. That's like almost the same thing. When you turn on a different side, you want to go back, but you just can't. That's the thing about when you turn onto a
Shadow warriors.
Shadow Warriors. Well, you're forever change. So I like how he wrote that, because like Landor, he was a beginner Shadow Knight. When he came, he was a Vincero Knight. So a Vincero Knight is different than a Shadow Warrior. A Vincero Knight is like, it's kind of like you're changing. You're like, yeah, this is cool. How I do this. But when you're a Shadow Warrior, you're like, life is forever changed. It's like you can't go back. And it's cool how he wrote that, because when you turn into like an Vincero Knight or a Warrior Knight, like you can see how it changes, because there is this one guy in the book who is a Shadow Warrior, and he's like very evil.
Well, who were the noble knights?
The Noble Knights were like followers of Jesus and followers of Christ.
Well, now I haven't read the book, but Chuck, the author, says that the noble knights are representatives of the scribes and Pharisees during the time of Jesus, and that were teaching the law. But they're not exactly the same as the Knights of the Prince, that represents all Christians. But when you say noble knights, the adjective in front of that kind of does elevate. Whereas your mom was talking about earlier how Sir Kendrick is saying, we don't do it to get accolades. We don't do it for that. We do it for God. Well, it kind of makes you think noble knights, they're doing things to get those accolades. So that's why I think good point that Jonah, that we relate to Duncan, because we are Duncan.
Yeah.
We're tripping, we're falling, we're seeing both of these play out, which paths. Like in the Bible, it says the narrow way and the wide way. And you said we have to make a choice, don't we? We can't. Can we go down the narrow way and the wide way at the same time?
No. You
No.
have to pick one way, and you have to pick that way to follow. But sometimes when you pick the wide way, you're gonna go off. But once you get to this certain point, you can't turn back. Like, it's just almost impossible to turn back. But like, that's the thing. Like, you have like a choice. Like, when you're in those two, like the fork in the road, you have a choice to go the hard way, the narrow way, or this huge wide way. Like, go this way. You can do whatever you want. Stuff like that. But like, when you get to like a couple of feet in that path, you just can't turn back. But if you take like 1 foot and like you see this, like, you might have a chance to turn back. And that's like, it's like saying we do that almost a lot. Like, that's basically sinning. We take one step in that big area, but once we repent, we can get off that road and go on the narrow road.
And I think it's a good point too that Duncan. So the main problem is what you said. Duncan gets trapped in a castle. How did he get trapped in a castle? He was very impulsive, but his heart was in the right spot. So in this castle, Lord Ra every week, and every week he hosts these feats, is what they call them. But basically, all of the youth of the area are invited to come, and it's just it is
Pretty much having like it's pretty much like a prom thing.
bread and circuses. That's a good point. And so, but like there's too much. It's there's indulgence, there's food, there's libations, there's all these different things that they don't mention, but you get the hint of other things too, like pleasure. Anything pleasurable, it's at the castle. And so he hooks the youth into having this lifestyle focused on themselves and pleasure and everything. That's how he's getting them. And some kids never come out. And Duncan, that's why he impulsively went to the castle by himself without telling Sir Kendrick. He wanted to rescue one of these kids that had gone in there, and then he ends up getting trapped himself. But the point,
that's a very good illustration of, we kind of think we are above getting trapped. So if I go into a situation and I think I'm going to rescue my friend, well, I'm thinking that I can't fall into that same temptation, but we can. And because, like he said, you have a choice to make. You're on this road, but I kind of think you also have that choice to make every day. Every day, I'm either going to follow God and grow closer to Him, or I'm going to do what I want and grow closer to someone else.
It kind of seems logical why they would have like the youth in there, because it's way easier to turn this little kid into this big knight other than a grown thinking adult, because because they've already have their brain developed, and they're like, wait a second, this isn't good. But the youth is like, oh yeah, let's go over here. The youth is very following, like they follow over people because they're kind of iffy because they're just kind of getting there and they don't really know a lot. But the adults, they know a lot. So they're like, no, not doing this. This is crazy.
kids are malleable.
Yes.
That's a great point. But on the other side, Duncan, the point that I was making with him is that even though he did do something impulsive, his heart was in the right spot, and like it works out. So he did something for a good cause. So that's why I'm like, even if we don't do it the right way, but if our heart's right and even if we're doing something impulsive, but we're on the right path, we have a heart to serve God, He'll send help. There will be help that will come.
God rewards effort always. And that's kind of the end of Ecclesiastes. It's like, if you're waiting for everything to be perfect before you start something, don't. Solomon, God through Solomon is saying, jump in, just dive in. Everything's not going to be perfect. When people say, well, I'll have kids when we get everything ready. No, you have to dive in, because that's that leap of faith. Like, if I know Titus likes to write books, Jonah likes to make movies. Well, hey, guess what? You got to dive in. You can't say, well, I want to write a Pulitzer Prize winning book. The person who did that did a lot of writing before they did that. Or I want to have a movie like Unsung Heroes. Guess what? Lived it, and then they wrote about it. So part of you has to just dive in. And the hard stuff, like everybody, when they start reading, they sound a little bit like a robot, like see the dog. That's how. And then later on, after building that, you sound fluent. And that's how life is hard.
You see, now, what I like is that most people who say, I'm going to write a book. Like, because I'm really, like you said, I like writing books. And then Jonah, he also is into sports and stuff. You can't be a professional sports player. You can't go, oh man, I'm going to go win state competition and all this. You have to develop the skill and able to play the sport you want to play. And it's the same thing with books. You have to develop the skill. You don't just like make it. And most of the time, people whose focus is set on the money and the fame and the prize never end up getting it. However, the people that are doing it just to do it because it's something, that they like doing, then that will happen. My purpose, I didn't really even want to get it published at first. I just liked writing because it's how I kind of expressed, emotions, feelings. And then now it's to the point where I kind of do want to get it published. But it's like you have to develop the skill. No one is born with the skill to like read on their own, right? You have to develop that skill.
That is so true. With anything, like when I first got married to Pop, Nana could make chocolate chip cookies and burritos, and that was all. That's the two things I could do. And so and your mom is always saying, well, that's a learning curve. There's a learning curve to that. So that's what this book teaches us. On a learning curve, you will stumble, you will fall. We will embrace that tension of learning. That is really a good place to be. That is such a good place to be. And thank God for that we're learning, because you know what? I think you play for your gifts. Have we thanked God for the gifts that He's given each one of us?
And I think that like we should be like thankful for like everything, like even with the fall, because it didn't work out. Well, you could just say that, or you could say, well, I know this doesn't work. Let's try something else. So it's more of like a gift that like, oh, this isn't how we do it. So let's try something new.
And I liked that, Jonah, so much because we don't have to make every mistake. We can say, oh, Eve, you had all those trees and you went to the one you couldn't have. And God tells us how to live a life that you will have abundance and joy. He tells us how to do it. But we think, well, we know better than God. Do we? No. But mankind under the delusion of control, if they're checking off boxes like, yeah, I'm doing this. And that, Kate said, pride also is in that. And I think we are prideful if we think we're in control, if we're impatient, we're not trusting God's timing. All of this can come out in a book like this. It kind of reminded me of that Door in the Wall book where the little boy, he couldn't walk. And then remember that monk who just worked with him. And the boy had a bad attitude. I'm just going to say, but through kindness, and like Jonah was saying, that's our choice. We get to choose.
And I think, like I was saying about you have to develop the skill, going back to Christ, you have to develop you have to develop your skill as a Christian. It's like no one is perfect and you can never develop the skill to be perfect. However, you can develop the skill to be more like Jesus. As in, that's what He wants us to do. He wants us to read the Bible and to pray every day and just to come to Him with any of our worries, sorrows, or anything that we're curious about, and praises. And I feel like that's something we need to develop, because when I was an early Christian, I didn't really pray a lot, but now it's to the point where I pray every night, and then sometimes every morning.
I think when you are in before meals and you're praying for people other than yourself and you're growing, and I think that's what Duncan epitomized, was there's growth, and that gives us all hope. I connected Duncan to Peter, and because Peter, I like him because he's impulsive. He jumped in the water with Jesus, and everybody talks bad about him because he was sinking, but hey, where were all the other apostles? They're in the boat. They didn't even get in the water. So he had faith that Jesus would save him even if he started to sink. And he did start to sink. And you know what? Jesus is going to help us through those rocky roads.
And he started to sink because he took his eyes off Jesus. That's in the real world. It's like we develop a skill, but then sometimes temptation, we fall in these potholes and we need God to get out of them. It's like if we're in a pothole, all these people walk by, help, I'm in a pothole. But then Jesus is that one person who comes with their outstretched hand and says, let me help you up. And I feel like that's kind of part of the story, as in Duncan took a fall and then he was helped back up. And when he was helped back up, he was even better than he was before.
Beautiful point. Do you have something to add, Jonah?
I just thought of something I forgot to write down, but something else that I like about Sir Kendrick is that he doesn't really focus on himself a lot. He more is like focus on like Duncan and other people. Like he was focusing pretty good on Landor and went because that their job was to like help other people learn the prince and all that. Well, he really tried that with Landor. Like he like really wanted him to know, Jesus or the prince in the story.
What? Here's another question for you boys. What is a haven? What does haven represent in the story?
A safe
A
place.
safe place? Do you have something else? Oh, can I?
No.
Do you remember yesterday when we went to church and they said this is a safe place? Do you think Chuck Black might mean that the church could be a haven?
Yeah, probably.
That's actually what he
Maybe.
says.
The book.
Yeah.
Learning.
A haven can be the local church where believers are trained and discipled, and they are sent out to share the gospel with others. Like Sir Kendrick, you said he was noticing not really himself, because as Titus said, every time that you get in that pothole and Jesus helps you, that you grow closer to him, there is a time that you get so close to him, you're really not worried about yourself, but you notice all these people and you try to help them.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Kate?
I think that's great. I love the way that Chuck Black did this and the imagery he puts in there and all of the symbolism and things. It's a series. This is the first book in the series, and I don't think my sister-in-law told me about it, and I don't think that they you don't have to read them in order, which is cool. We do have the next one in there that we will be reading because we loved it.
Sir Dalton and the Shadow Heart.
So that's the next one that we'll be reading, and this is the series, The Knights of Erythrae.
He also has written the popular Kingdom series, and those look very interesting to me too. I think my student Josiah read all of these, but Kingdom's Dawn, Kingdom's Hope, Kingdom's Edge, Kingdom's Call, Kingdom's Quest, Kingdom's Reign. Very adventurous. You're on a journey. It's kind of reminded me of Lord of the Rings because you are on a journey, and our life is a journey. You got to wonder, why are these books popular? Well, because they symbolize our life and our journey as we're going through our broken world. These people are too. Different time period, but does it really matter? Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. What does that mean? Because we have new gadgets and stuff, but the hearts of people hasn't changed.
That's true.
I think that's a good point. That's a great point. I love the connection. And also the fact I can connect it with Pilgrim's Progress too. It's kind of that the Christian walk is not easy. It's dangerous. There's snares along the way. There's things that try to pull us away from one side or another, and some of them could be good. It's not, there's distractions. There's good distractions. It's not good to be distracted, but I'm saying there's things that it could be helping with a fundraiser or something, but it's not what you're called to do. It's pulling you away from the direction you're supposed to go. So it's just good to be mindful of that. And I think Chuck Black does a good job of showing that the Christian walk is dangerous and that there is a fight, there is a battle. And we don't think about that, but that's what scripture says. Our fight is not against flesh and blood, but it's against spiritual entities. There's a dark realm, and so we need to be aware of it. And I think it's good to not sugarcoat things for kids, but to prepare them. And I feel like it's a lot, and I think Peterson has said that too. Don't try to protect your kids from all the snakes in the garden. Teach them to identify them.
It's like I think what kind of tricks kids up, in which I'm not a kid. I think what kind of tricks kids up is that they think, oh, temptation. I think what the parents do is they kind of over exaggerate and they're like, oh, snakes are venomous. They can kill you. So they're like, oh, better stay out of the garden. Well, what happens when they're on their own and they come face to face with a cobra? That thing will kill. And then they're like, oh no, what do? Do I run away? Nope, can't go that way, can't go this way, can't go that way. What do you do? So that's why I think, for one thing, it's not good for someone to be not a protective parent where they just let their kid do whatever they want. But then it's not good to be an overprotective where they won't even let them go outside because they don't want them to get sunburned.
Yes, that's a great point. There's a balance there that we need to find the balance
and trust God that it is his world. He made a perfect world, but man entered with other plans, schemes, as we talk about. But I do think Titus hit the nail on the head when you've got to be willing to let your children stumble and fall. And I think books like this and others, there's some really deep books. In fact, we read one for adults, which was Seeing the Unseen, which was very deep. It's a little scary, even. But that we do need to put on armor, but no one's going to put on armor if we don't think there's a battle, because armor's heavy. Armor wears us down, and it's a weight that nobody would put that on unless we saw a need for it. It's kind of like you're up for the challenge. When in Lord of the Rings, Frodo is carrying that ring, it wears on him. That's what armor does. But if you're aware, and like Titus said, you got to know that the snake's out there and you know what it is. That's what God does in the Bible. He tells you. He doesn't Pollyanna pie in the sky, everything is beautiful. He says there's danger out in the world. And why not be ready for it and say, oh, my mom said this would happen. Dad said this would happen. Yeah, this is one of those hard times. And because then you can get through it. God will get you through it.
Yeah.
If he brings you to it, he will get you through it.
That's great. And so let's wrap up with one final question. What was your takeaway, your overall takeaway from the book?
Well, my takeaway is never give up, which is why I like Sir Kendrick. Because how hard it is when there's a battle against Bel Lione, when the drawbridge comes up, almost no hope left, but they still did not give up. This book is definitely for you if you like knights.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great thing. Never give up.
I feel going back to what I had said, my takeaway was about the kind of the development, how we try to rush life when we should be embracing it. We should not be like, oh man, I have to work, I have to hold this tree away, and my truck's broken, it's too sunny, my hands hurt. Well, why not think about the things that would be a benefit? Well, get you stronger hauling that tree. It's like why most people try to avoid the hard things in life when we should embrace it. We should do what we don't like. So then when that's over with, then we'll pat ourselves on the back. And if we avoid it, then later on we're going to be like, well, now that tree is rotting and all this, and I probably should have moved it. But too late now, it's covered in snakes. Well, I feel like we try, like I had said. So we need to develop the skill and embrace the hard parts of it.
I love that. That's great. Very powerful.
Boys, you have convinced Nana to read Sir Kendrick. Good job. And so I'm going to take it with me. We're all together, and I'm fixing to leave, and I will take Sir Kendrick with me, so I won't be driving alone. Sir Kendrick can drive part of the way.
And that is a wrap on Sir Kendrick by Chuck Black. Remember, let's connect to reflect.